Hey everyone, welcome to a special edition of AGT Time. Cody Patterson here along with.
Along with Jay Bach, who's here along with.
With Kristy Sellars.
Yay!
Yay!
We're so happy that you're able to join us, Kristy.
Thank you for having me. I'm so
Yeah,
excited. I'm a friend of the show now.
yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that this last week has just been a whirlwind for you and busyness and fielding all sorts of calls and congratulations and hey, I know yous. Uh, like, how how has the last week been?
Um, Pretty cruisy. My phone has been busy, but my actual life has been pretty cruisy. Like as soon as the show finishes, it's just like boom, and everything like just shuts down and it's done, and all the acts are like flying out the next day, regardless of what happened, and you're just like, oh, see you later. And
Right?
so I had my daughter with me. We flew home. I was very jet lagged, which didn't surprise me because usually after such an intense sort of thing like this, I'll fall in a bit of a heap afterwards. So physically, I didn't really train or do anything for a few days anyway. And yeah, there's the social media side of things is pretty nuts. Like there are a lot of messages, and every time I open, especially Facebook, it takes me a long time to get through them. I like to respond to everybody, so it takes me a long time to go through even the ones that are coming up as requests. And yeah, lots of opportunities coming through, but it's just a matter of deciding, what are the right ones.
That's
Yeah.
a really good problem to have, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
So you say you flew home. Where is home? Did you fly back to Australia or
Yeah, back
somewhere in the
to
states?
I flew into Melbourne and I live like an hour and a half from Melbourne
Okay.
in a country town, small place. So,
Were you able to bring your Kia back to Australia with you then?
no, I actually only spoke to them today about that. So,
Oh,
yeah, I'm not going to take the car. I'm going to take the cash equivalent so that I can give some money to the animator as
oh,
well.
fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
I suppose there's dollars out of your pocket to get yourself onto AGT and to produce your show and all the stuff that goes
Yeah.
into it, right?
Yeah, so the show do have like a budget, say for costume or whatever, but if you want to have this like spectacular gold light up costume that's choreographed with all the bells and whistles, that costs more, and they don't. So anything that's extra, you've got to pay out of your own pocket. And I obviously want to make these shows at a certain level, and that costs money. So, I mean, I invest in it myself. Obviously, I invested in it whether I was going to win, lose, or draw, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess we can kind of back up a little bit and talk about the costumes and everything that went
Hmm.
into you getting on the show. And backing way up, I guess you were on Australia's Got Talent. What year was
Hmm.
that you were Australia's Got Talent?
2019.
2019. And
Yeah.
then I'm assuming you were in the Got Talent zeitgeist, and they were like, you know who might be good on America's Got Talent is this Kristy Sellars from Australia's Got Talent. Is that like, did they reach out to you that way, or did you kind of start the ball rolling?
No, they reached out to me. I get asked to do a lot of the Got Talent shows actually. But for me, I don't really care about being on TV or famous or anything like that. So it was more what drew me to the US show was the Vegas opportunity that kind of comes off the back of that. That's not there with any of the others.
Okay.
And even like afterwards, they did ask me if I would do All Stars, and I said no because it just doesn't. They're like, oh, you can just do something that you've done previously, but it's not why I do the shows. So it doesn't interest me to just be on TV more. I want to create. I want to create.
Yeah. Okay. So you got into the America's Got Talent. Your audition was spectacular. I mean, it's do you know how many millions of views you've gotten? It's got to be
On Facebook, it's over 80 million.
okay. So like it took off. It was noticed. I noticed it. And when we did our draft and I drafted you first off the board, and then you took the impetus to reach out and see if we wanted to come to the qualifier round.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like that time between the audition then and the audition and the qualifier, like were you I'm assuming back in Australia for much of that?
Yeah.
How did all that go?
Yeah, so because they changed the format and they only did that midway through the year. So after the audition, it was like, we'll let you know in a few weeks if you got through, because just because you get all yeses and a standing ovation doesn't mean that you're going through. It just means that you're qualified to go through. So and then I didn't hear from them. And after the audition, I felt pretty good. I was like, I feel like that went well. I'm going to start preparing something for the next one. But I did lose momentum with it. I lost motivation a little bit with it because I just couldn't get that answer from them. And they changed it from 36 live acts to 55. And then they sort of said to me, because at that point, I thought I was going to prepare like quarterfinal, semifinal, finale, potentially 3 more shows. And then it wasn't until July at some point that they actually confirmed what was going on. So
Really?
that was
Wow.
stressful. So there was, I did have time on it, but because with the show, you've got to get everything approved. Like your music's got to be approved and everything's got to be cleared because of licensing. So even if I were super organized, there would have been things that held me up anyway. So I lost a bit of steam in that time. But once it was confirmed, I sort of got back into it and started working on that qualifier show.
Wow. Okay. So July, you knew that you were coming to the live shows.
Yeah.
August is live shows.
Yeah.
How long were you stateside then preparing for the qualifier round?
In the US, do you mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I only got there. You only arrive 1 week before
Oh, really?
the show. Yeah. So I arrived with that show finished, not with a finale finished. I didn't know if I would get through. And also I was still like, we went overtime on creating that qualifier show. So that meant that I arrived in the States with a potential finale show that was about 50% done.
Oh, wow. Okay. But you're focusing on the qualifiers with that finale hanging out there, kind of hoping that you're going to have to do it, but
but also not really thinking about the fact that I would have 5 days to finish it. I just didn't think of it.
wow. So I guess maybe walk us through that final couple days leading into that qualifier. You've got your family hanging around Pasadena with you. Your daughter's there, your sister, your parents. Like you've got sort of your group around you. What's the I don't know, any juicy behind the scenes stuff you can share with us? Any fun goings ons?
Yeah, that week, the qualifier week 5, everyone was so nice to each other. Like all of the contestants, we genuinely just actually got on. Like we would catch up for coffee or dinner or lunch or whatever outside of anything with the show. We were like, oh, what time are you going down for breakfast? Oh yeah, I'll meet you there. And so it was a really, really nice camaraderie, and everyone, I don't know, it was more relaxed. As soon as that switch happened between the qualifier and the finale week, it was completely different. Not that people
Oh,
weren't nice, but the tension and the energy and the nerves and everything. Plus, for me, I was just stuck in my rehearsal space basically all day, every day, because I had so much work to do. So I just didn't have the time that I did have in the previous week when, you know, I arrived basically with a finished show. I just needed to get on the stage and check some of the things that I hadn't before, like the floor LED,
yeah.
which I hadn't worked with before. I had just kind of guessed it where it was going to be. So there were a few things that I was like, oh my gosh, a bit nervous about that, a bit nervous about the whole thing. The stakes are so high. I really want to get through. Only 2 acts are going through. But for the most part, you couldn't do more than what you could already do because you had a finished show. You were just going off the schedule of AGT, like, okay, interviews here, stage block there. And it was exciting. And there was like time to get your camera out and take a photo and get to know everybody so well. And then that just changed after I got
Yeah.
through. Yeah. So,
Well, I was just gonna say, Kristy. So you probably haven't had a chance to catch up. I know you've been real busy the last few weeks, but we've commented a lot about this format, with the new format, and one of the things that we really wish we would have gotten to see was we wanted to see you perform, not just you, but you and all the other performers perform more. So we
yeah.
wanted to see the quarterfinals and the semifinals. The fact that we got to see you in a qualifiers and then in a finale, we really wanted to see more. And it sounded like you had some shows ready for more rounds. I really wish
Yeah.
we could have gotten to see those.
Yeah, the one that I had planned for the quarterfinal was really, really beautiful. It was about a dressmaker who basically has all these patterns on the wall, and the music was just so beautiful. And anyway, she starts. It's kind of like a rags to riches sort of thing. She ends up like this gown comes out of the costume. It's like this rainbow dress, and really really beautiful music, beautiful movement quality, and just a different style that I didn't do on the show. Because when I kind of thought about the potential, okay, the audition, I want to make sure that I know a lot of the people watching will have never seen me, so it needs to be like I need to help them and reveal what I do in pieces. Like, okay, it looks like a pole show. Oh, okay, it's not just a pole show. Oh, it's something really different entirely. And then, yeah, and then go into not super fast paced of what I could do, but just like help the audience sort of just lead them into it a bit. And then obviously from there, I could go a bit faster like I did with the semi. I knew I wanted that to be like a higher pace, higher energy, but and then the finale was the one that I definitely knew what I wanted to do with that, like the type of show. But that quarterfinal one that I didn't get to do, so pretty. And I was practicing it. Like I was fully, there was magic in it, and yeah, it would have been really nice. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll do it one day.
Ooh,
Uh,
my fingers are crossed.
Yeah, I want to go back to the auditions real quick. And so Simon's reaction when you come out and find out you're a pole dancer, and the leaning of the head back and all that. Was there more to that, or can you kind of go through that?
Yeah, I'm pretty used to that. Like I've been doing pole for 15 years, so I'm pretty much used to people just rolling their eyes and being like, "Oh yeah," like just I don't even register it anymore because honestly, like I do pole because for me, like I'm
Yeah,
not doing it for anybody else, so I don't really care what anybody else thinks of it. I know what I do. Like I do all the different movements. I do all the different styles. It's not for me, it's just a vertical piece of steel. It's not
right.
anything specifically like it's nothing in particular. It's the same as, if it's this way, if we change it to horizontal, people feel totally differently about it.
Right.
So the
Yeah, yeah.
orientation of the pole is what gets people. So yeah, when I actually didn't even register, I was sort of like, oh yeah, I just expected that they wouldn't be excited about it because I knew that I knew that that's what people are always like. So
Yeah.
until you kind of show them, and then they're like, oh, okay, this is
Yeah.
interesting.
Because your act is not just about the pole; it's just an instrument
Yeah.
you use for your show.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
There's
part
more,
of
there's
it.
more to the show. Right. It's just there's more to your show. It's all the projections and the music and the artistry. It's just the one thing that you happen to use in order to do the rest of the show.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like I could do it without the pole, but the pole enables us to move in on another axis that's not
Right.
there if we just dance on the floor. Like I know Kenichi, the past winner, which is funny because I never saw his shows until later on, but that's about the time that I started doing the projection stuff as well. Now he was doing it obviously at the time at a more advanced level, which is why everyone loved it so much. But if you go back and watch his shows, he's first of all he's going a lot slower with the projections because it's easier to interact when they're not as fast. But he can move sideways and he can move back or the illusion of back and forward. He can't move up and down in the physical space because he cannot fly, right? So unless you get on an aerial or a pole or something like that. And that's why I like the idea of the pole, is because we can move in and out of, drop into different things and use it. And I'm sure I haven't even scratched the surface of what could be done with it.
Well, I want you to kind of talk to the audience a little bit about your creative process. You told me a little bit about how how involved you are in every detail of your show, but I want you to use your words to kind of talk about all the different ways that you I don't know, all the different parts that you are so invested in, costumes and
Yeah. Sure. Well, yeah, it's funny because they always say, "Oh my God, you must have this huge, amazing team," and I'm like, "Nope, it's just me." And obviously, I get an animator in along the way to do that part. So it is just me. I start off with just thinking of a cool story that I want to tell, and it might just start really simply, like it'd be fun to go into a book. Okay, well, how does that make sense? And where do we go in the book? And why do we need to be in the book? There's got to be a problem for this character to solve. And then once I sort of figure out the story, I then go and I find inspiration images of like the colors or the type of mushrooms that I want to use on the tree, or I'll just go and find all of these elements and create like a vision board. And then, oh, this is convenient. And then I'll draw the storyboards. So like you can start to see how it's all coming together. And even this was way back at the start, but can you see that? That looks like how the water came out of the frame onto the floor. Yeah. So in my mind, when I draw these vision boards, there's the swimming as well. I'll send you this so you can upload it if you want. So I kind of know how I want them to look before it's even created. And then once I've got things on the storyboard, I start to think about how am I going to incorporate the poles in a way that makes sense and not just because. That is probably one of the hardest. That's the hardest part, actually. And then along with that, I'll scout the music, which takes forever because I always know. It's like a knowing of what I already see the finished product is going to be. And I'll even sit in the studio and there's nothing on the wall, there's no music on, there's nothing there. And I just look at the poles and watch the show in my head. I'm like, oh, yeah. And sometimes it's fragments and sometimes it's bigger things, but usually I have this full vision in my mind of how I want the show to be before it's even created. So once I've got the music, I can start to figure out what the edits are, because typically it's 2 or 3 songs that I'm getting edited together. And then I'll start to send things to the animator and so I'll use his program to find things like the mushrooms, and I'll say, okay, these are the mushrooms I want. This is where I want them. This is how big they need to be. And we're going to move the camera up as we go up the tree for the climbing or whatever it is. So I'll choreograph what I want the movement of the camera to be for the animator, because he's building a 3D world. So he's building a world where there's a tree that you could essentially just take the camera all the way around the tree, all the way up over the bird's eye view of the tree if you wanted to. So it's just about figuring out how the camera should move in a way that makes sense with me. So I need to think about it from that perspective too. And then it becomes a back and forward process. So he'll send me, let's just say, the bubbles, and I'll say, no, they're too slow, or they're too high, or they're too big, all of that. And then, yeah, it's just back and forward for ages and a lot of hours. And then physically getting to the point where I can do the whole thing in one piece. Like the semi-final was so physical that I had to start doing that in 6 parts because I couldn't get through the entire thing without dying. I just couldn't do the tricks by the end of it. My muscles didn't have enough oxygen. I hadn't choreographed breathing points into the routine at that stage. And then throughout this whole process, I'll really start to develop the character and who they are, how they move, what is their backstory. Like each character has a name. They have their own story before this. And I never tell anyone it. It would just, I don't know if it would sound weird, but it helps me to give the character and the show substance and really give me the answers when I need them about, okay, well, if the character is this type of person and they're looking around, would they be scared? Would they be excited? What is the face doing? So then I'll go through and choreograph the facial expressions, and that's how I know what the costume should be, because the character would wear or not wear certain things.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
You have somebody who builds your costumes for you, yes?
Yeah, so I have a costume designer that I work with. So I'll have a whole process with her. Like, I'll send her the music, I'll send her the storyline, like the whole synopsis of this is what they're like, and we build it from there. And she'll usually send me a sketch that I'm not happy with, and then we go back and forward, and we get there in the end.
Yeah, you let me see your costume when I was there in California with you, and like the weight of it was really substantial. And you talked about how you also like travel with it. It stays with you. You don't
I don't put it in the luggage that goes under the plane. I always carry it with me, which is funny because like there's usually wires and all these kind of things going on. So the security must just be like, what is this girl doing? Taking this bra full of wires and batteries and all of this.
Well, I think that's just a wonderful explanation. And I think that it makes for a really awesome show. Your storytelling ability, your attention to detail, and you talked a little bit about I don't want to just blast you with all this information. I want to pull the audience in, like let them sort of learn the limits of what you can do, or expand the limits of what they think you can do, and that's such a hard thing for so many acts, I think, to do. Not like, look at all the tricks that I can do. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh,
boom.
yeah. It's really hard too, because the producers are really pushing you to do your best possible show. And for me, the audition, if you look at it, I kept it mostly black and white because I knew I could go to color and visually like just blow your mind with the next one. I kept it medium pace. So it had a pace to it, but it wasn't so fast that you were like, couldn't digest it. And I kept the tricks very simple as well on the pole, like very, very basic pole skills. But you don't know that as a muggle, a non-pole folk. But yeah, so I kept it pretty simple, and that was hard because the producers are going, you need to bring your best show so that you can get through. And while you are trying to bring your best show, you're trying to leave something up your sleeve for later. And I think, like you said, as a viewer, when I'm watching, I see a lot of them. They do excel at the first live show, but then after that, it kind of falls off. And you're like, oh, well, was there anything more there? Or did it just become better because the production was better? So for me, it's always about thinking of all of the potential shows through to the finale, whether I make it or not, and hoping that each one is enough to get me to the next round.
Wow. Well, that's very, very cool. The whole, you're thinking on such a detailed level and such a big picture level. Shows that aren't even created yet, you're starting to design the color scheme of them clear back there. So cool. Now, another thing that I want to talk to you a little bit about is at the actual show, I got to experience that you did your performance first before the live show actually started. And hopefully I'm not giving away any secrets that I'm not supposed to here. But
No, people know that.
No,
portions pre-recorded.
That's news to me because I thought it was live when I watched it.
So I know at the qualifier round you performed half an hour before everybody else, and when we talked a little bit in Pasadena, you're saying, it's like I have to stay warm and I have to make sure that I'm prepared at the right time and the right way to actually do the performance. Is that a more pro or a con, or I don't know, just any information about the way that they had to set you up early, to make it all safe and then get it all out of the way before the actual.
Yeah. Well, so Cody, the pre-tapes are always done for any acts that take more than a commercial break to set up. Okay. So, for example, like the Lazy Generation, they had all those cacti. And so something like that is a pre-tape because it does take time to set up. And if there's a safety element involved, like my act with the truss, if that's not done properly and it falls, like I could die. So it's not really a matter of trying to put things out of order. It's just sometimes they'll have 2 pre-tapes, sometimes they'll just have 1. Pretty much every single week they would have a pre-tape, but in the end, for the finale, it only ended up being me because I was the only act with that much time. Yeah,
I can
Jay?
say that when you at that qualifier round, you were followed by Blade to Blade, so they used that live time to set up for Blade to Blade, and I was kind of getting a kick out of watching them because like they've got tape measures out, making sure that things are the right distance, and like it's a very specific setup that they require too.
Yeah, so sometimes they'll do that so that they can buy themselves time to set up for the next act, which is exactly what you just said. The reality is that to have such big setups on a stage like that, it does mean that they need to buy themselves some minutes at times. And because my rig system probably takes 15 minutes to set up and pack down, they need like 45 minutes of time. Otherwise the show suffers and they don't get acts that like mine, they don't get those acts.
Yeah. So your tape beforehand, it's a pre-tape. So then when it's aired and like I'm watching at home on my TV, Jay, are you watching it on, are there screens there where you're then re-watching it during that time?
Yes. Yep. Like we watch the TV broadcast essentially on the big LED screen
while they were setting up Blade to Blade.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's exactly the same. Like they load in the audience, they load in the judges, everyone's there like ready to go. It's just that half an hour before they'll film some of it. So I didn't feel like it was not fair or anything like that. It felt exactly the same as if I had just come out and done it. It's just that they couldn't set it up in that amount of time. And to answer your question, Jay, where usually, yes, it would be harder to go first because you don't know exactly when things are going to start. But on a show like AGT where everything's coordinated down to the second, you know exactly what time you're going to be on. I did make the mistake in that semi-final of, they were like, okay, you can go out and like check the polls, because they always want me to sign off on the safety side of it, like give them a good pull and try and check that they're up properly. So they said that I could go out and do that, and I don't think I was really conscious of the time and how much longer I'd have to wait and stay warm. And I feel like it had been so long since I was back in front of an audience that I was kind of enjoying just relaxing in front of all of these people, like just kind of feeling their presence and being like, okay,
Yeah.
so, but the following week, I just didn't even go out until like 30 seconds before the show. I was more relaxed, and which is weird because I had so little time to prepare, but I just thought, well, it is what it is. Like, here we go.
So, Jay, you were sitting for the qualifiers. You were sitting up in the balcony.
Yes.
And if viewers at home were paying attention enough, we could see the back of your head when Terry's up there.
That's right.
So, how was your view from where you were, and how is it compared to watching at home?
The balcony seats that we had that first night were really quite good. We were just a little bit off center. I think some of your family, Kristy, might have been right at center, the way that, whatever. But I was right on the aisle there. So I was just off center. I would say that it was very good. When was it Travis Japan performed, they had some lights shining straight up to the balcony, and like I couldn't see a dang thing. The whole their whole performance was just like I was blinded. There was nothing to see. So like there's problems with being live, but I can also say that watching the Mayas from my point of view up there, like they have those lines of the ladies there lined up and they're doing their tricks, and being just off center, you could see what each of them was doing on the way back, and that was I think good to see. I won't say better or worse, but like it was more interesting having just a little bit off center view than only having that one straight on view. So the balcony was fantastic that first night, and then for the results show we got to be down on the floor, and we were 8-9 rows back. It was really it was a fun place to be.
So could you see Kristy's projections very well from where you see, or does it show up better on TV? I'm just curious.
Well, I didn't have to cut away for any 3 seconds to watch a judge's facial reaction or anything. I just got to watch it just straight through like I always wanted to. So
yes, you got what you wanted. Yes.
Oh, thank you, Chris.
A dream come true, right?
But yeah, the immersive screen behind you and the floor, and you, on the show even talked about like working with the projected floor is not something that you are able to do on your day to day.
Yeah.
But like what a neat stage, what a high tech stage to get to see that. It really was, from my point of view, just a perfect spot to watch you perform.
Yeah, it's funny because I always create my shows for a live audience. I create them so that it works for, if something is not going to work for everyone in the room, I really have to, like the tree branch break, I had to talk to them about it because I said, this is cool, like it's going to look really cool, but the reality is I can't get to the screen. I'm always going to be about 6 feet away from it. So this perspective will slightly change for people in the room. But obviously being a TV show, they were like, no, we want to have that effect. Like it would be really cool. We'll make sure we'll get it at the right camera angle. But that's how much I really debate, if something isn't going to work for everyone in the room, will I do it? And in this instance, like obviously it's for TV, so it's a little bit different, but the shows should work for a live audience because that's how I create them.
Yeah. I think like I said, from my point of view, it worked very, very well. So
I want to transition a little bit to kind of the result night for the qualifiers. So you're up there on the stage. There's a lot going on. We had who was our guest performers that night? I don't have my I didn't put my notes.
and Juliet,
was it a musical
recorded.
or Juliet? Something.
Yes, Juliet.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that was pre-recorded.
Yep, that was actually the night before. So we hung around after the show and watched Juliet. Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Mm.
So there's a lot of time to kill that night because they're just going boom, 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 boom through. So kind of walk through as you're standing on the stage. What's going through your mind as Terry's calling out all these names?
Um, I remember that all the rehearsals for the results went really slowly. So you basically, because you have your mark and they have to make sure they light you properly and all of that. And then they do go through the results, but it's like a draw out of a hat kind of thing. Like, and this person stepped forward. So you just kind of have to get used to like, oh, okay, then when they call your name, you step forward onto these dots and then this is what happens. So the rehearsals took forever. And then I remember feeling like in the show, it was over really fast. And, yeah, I felt pretty good that I would make the top five. Top five, yeah. And then they did. I knew the Myers would go through, so it was more like, who's joining the Myers? So I knew there was only one spot essentially out of these 10 acts, and I, I don't know. I thought they were all so good. So it really was. I just thought if I do get through, it means that people have actually voted for me. Like people I don't know that really like what I do have voted for me. And yeah, I wasn't expecting to get through, clearly. Very emotional.
I will shamefully say that I think I had you fourth on my rankings that night. Like those rankings that I put out are my initial thoughts, as I'm watching the show. After rewatching it, and then I had a guest on that night as well. I obviously did my rankings completely wrong. And as I was watching the results, and your name kept getting called, I was getting more excited for Jay getting to it. I mean, obviously it's exciting for you, Kristy, but I was so excited for Jay to get to be able to experience this as well, to watch you, to get invited there and then get to watch you go from the top 5 to the top 3 and then, get announced to go to the finale. It brought so much joy to me that he got to see that. So.
Well, it really was thrilling, but I got to tell this story because this is kind of what I tell people when they ask about my trip to Pasadena is, after the results show, you made the top 2 and you come out of the building and like you're taking some pictures with some fans and with your family, and I step forward to give you a high five, or you throw your arms and you say, "Jay, we got points for your fantasy team." And it just goes to show, like, the point of that is, like, this night is really all about you. Like, you just did an amazing show, and you made it into the top 2. You're this much closer to, just all the stardom that this can bring. And not at all interested in talking about that. You're pointing it back at me and the stupid fantasy draft, which I still think I came in 4th of 4, but
oh, did you?
I don't know how close it was. It was at least respectable, thanks to you. So.
Yeah, and what I was trying to get, I was trying to convince commenter that, hey, if you get to go and meet the person that is on your team, you automatically get 50 points. And he would.
Yeah,
he would go for it.
I feel like that's it. So really, you won, Jay.
Yeah.
Points aside, I'm definitely the winner in all of this.
Yes, you are definitely the winner in all this. Absolutely. So.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Kristy, I love telling that story, and it really, I think, is just a microcosm of the kind of person you are, that you're, always reaching back out. When people reach out to you to congratulate you, you respond. You talked with me a little bit about a autistic boy that you had some communication with.
Oh, yeah.
Back when you were in the qualifier round, and you sent a video or an audio message, and you got a video back of the mom sharing your message with him, and like it's making you emotional watching him see that response, like and just that joy and that generosity is just so wonderful. So I want to
Thank you.
like it's who you really are, and I want our audience to know, like, you're really a wonderful person. It's not just this, you're not some celebrity that's too big for anything. Like you really
I'm
just
not a
seem to.
celebrity. Riley always asks me, she's like, Mom, are you famous? I was like, no. But you should have seen after the finale, it was the messages were, because of the type of show that it was, I knew that I would connect with a lot of people. I knew that if that show didn't connect with someone, like, that's okay, and they weren't, I don't know, I just knew that it would go straight through the heart of the people that needed to hear it and see it and feel that message. And it's, for me, like, so much more than just a performance on the stage. That finale piece is a moment in time. It's a time capsule of something that can bring you up if you're down. And the messages were very overwhelming. They weren't just like, oh, I love this show. Like the semi-final and the audition, people were like, this is so cool, I love watching it. The finale, totally different. Like there was one, and they were all different. The one was like, I lost my mother in January, and this just made me so happy. Like I'm crying because I just remember how much love she had for me when I watched you perform this piece for your daughter. And then there'd be another one that was just like, you literally don't understand. You saved my life tonight. Like I was about to commit suicide, and I saw this, and you made me realize that there'll be a light, and that I can keep going. Like, and one after another, after another, after another. And I had to, the next day I was like getting teary because I'm always emotional when it's, it's, if you're an artist, like you're putting everything into it and then you put it out there, and to know that it's received in the way that you wanted it to be, and to go further than just entertainment, to reach people on a real human level. Like I hope that that's what I'm remembered for. And just had to take breaks and stuff because that show did it. It will always be there. I'm really proud of it. Really proud of that one.
Yeah. And I don't want to keep you too long. I know we're kind of up against a clock here, Kristy, but like, where do you go from here? Do you have a vision or a plan of what this is going to catapult you into?
Well, you know that I would like to create a full production experience for people. That's a big goal, but
other performers and bringing in a whole
a full. I don't even need to be in it. Like I'm just the mind behind it, I guess. But it's there's plenty of opportunities already for me to go and perform every day if I want to, but that's not what I want to be doing. I'll perform a little bit. I have been asked to perform in Vegas. We'll see. So it's not just me. I have to consider
AGT Live in Vegas, or like in Vegas, like the Kristy Sellars Theater in Vegas.
No, with AGT.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So it's not just me that I have to think about. Like I have kids and businesses, and also the whole reason I went on this show was not to be famous or make lots of money or do, like, the reason is because I love creating, and the challenge and the growth and all of that pushed me to do things that I haven't done before is why I do it. So, it's the same with All Stars. They're like, oh, you can just do something that you've done before. I'm like, well, that just helps you. That's not really going to fulfill me. So if the work isn't exciting to me, then I'm not going to do it, because I don't need to perform for money. Like I'm really fortunate in how I've set up my life and worked over all these years that I don't need to do that. I can just stay here with my family if I want to, or I can take on exciting creative opportunities that are just more than a few minutes for the audience. Like I want to completely give you something immersive that it blows your mind, and you go back and you go back and you go back.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I will say we appreciate you trying to bring something fresh and not do the same routine multiple times in the same show.
I wonder who you're talking about. Oh,
You're talking about Vegas Live, and I know we only have a little bit of time left because you got to get going. But I want to quickly just transition because you said you wanted to hear this. I want
Yeah, I
to talk
do.
real quick about my experience at Vegas Live. So between the time that you were in Qualifiers, so let me kind of go the backstory. So you invited both of us to go to Qualifiers 5. I was not able to go because the next week I was actually going to be on a work trip in Vegas. So I was not able to go to LA and then make the trip to Vegas. So Jay went with your dad. Y'all had a wonderful time. So when I found out that I was going on a work trip to Vegas, one of the first things I did is I looked up Vegas Live tickets because that's what I wanted to go see. So I got my Vegas Live tickets, and the show that I went to was between the time it was on Sunday between when you were on Qualifiers 5 and the finale. And so it's at the Luxor, and it's a big casino. The theater is really hard to get to, and it was basically just a variety show of former Vegas acts and one act that was actually in this year's season.
Who was that?
who was that?
That was Ava Swiss on my team.
That would have been so
Cody
funny.
Thompson, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So Ava Swiss, I think, was in Qualifiers 1, and so she sang a couple of songs in the Vegas Live. John Dornbos was the host the night that I was there. I think it was the last night he was hosting. And then, so as I got there, I arrived, and Jay, they have, as you're going in off to the side, that's where the judge busts are, as well as the judge's table. And then you can get your picture taken with like the AGT background and whatnot. So there is a slight extra fee to have your picture taken for all that. I was real excited to do it, so I did that. The bust of Simon that was broken, they actually said, yes, that was broken right there. So they did not have the Simon bust out. They had I think they had a picture of him on the little pedestal there with all the busts. So I did that. And then as I went in, as I was in the theater, they were playing some videos ahead of time. So one of the videos they played was like the funniest auditions ever. So they had like Bello Knock. They had Joku the chicken, Jay.
Oh, yeah.
They had Sethward. They had some Sethward clips. They had Yumbo Dump.
Oh, I love Yumbo Dump.
Yes, they had Men with Pans. So they kind of just played that on a loop. They had Simon come on. They did a lot of, for the acts, they did a lot of their intro packages that we already saw on the show.
Okay.
They replayed those
Kind of remind
as
you
well.
who this is.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. Simon came on and kind of did a little thing, and he said that AGT is the most successful TV format of all time.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's right up there. I mean, I don't know if it's more successful than sitcoms.
But it's
No,
Simon,
I think no, I think there's data behind that.
Yeah.
right, because you have
Yeah, I
all the
can't
different-
remember. I remember. Yeah, there's something. They've measured that somehow. So it'd be interesting to get the metrics. But they say that because they have some data point to refer to when they say it.
Yeah,
So
they have all those Got Talent. You have the Australia's Got Talent. You got Britain's Got Talent. So there's all these Got Talent franchises. So because of that, yeah, I mean, they didn't point that out. That'd be interesting to hear, Kristy. That's just kind of stuff we like to know. So if you know of that, that'd be great to kind of talk about.
yeah. But how was the actual show?
Yeah, so I'm getting to that. So the first act that came out was Light Balance. It was actual Light Balance, Jay.
Not Light Balance
No-
Kids.
No kids. There were no kids. It was OG Light Balance. So they came out. They did some dancing. That was great to see them in person. I had seen Illuminate before, so it was very similar. Both of them very similar to see in person. Great performance. John Dornbos comes out, does a little card trick. It's John Dornbos, does his motivational speaking. Real excellent. One of my biggest pet peeves, I jotted this down because it was really, really bothering me, is people showing up late to the show.
Really?
I mean, I'm sitting there trying to watch the show, and people are still coming, like a half hour late. People are coming into the show. I'm sure they don't allow that at live tapings.
No. In fact, if you get up to go to the bathroom, they've got seat fillers that come in.
Nice.
And
Like at the
fill your seat
Oscars
while
and the
you're
Emmys.
gone. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
They
Nice.
want it to look like a full audience. Absolutely.
Yep. So Ava Swiss then came out and sang. That was real nice treat to see her sing, just because we just saw her on this season. So
Yeah.
she sang "Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken" by Pink. Y'all familiar with that?
I think she sung that for her. Did she
sang
sing
it for her
that song?
audition?
I
Yeah.
think it was.
I'd have
on
to
the
go back
show,
and look
yeah.
at my audition. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at my notes. It was real good. So I as I was watching this, Jay and Kristy, we're not big on the singers, but watching this in person gave me a whole new appreciation for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think I might. I mean, I can't say I'm making a turn on the singers, but watching it live gave me a different perspective on it. And I think
Okay.
I enjoyed it way more seeing her there and listening to her voice in person more than listening to them on the television.
That's fair. Yeah.
So one of the biggest issues also at that theater, it was really loud. I think the sound guys had everything turned up a couple notches. It seemed like it was just overdone a little bit. We talk about the sound on the show. It seemed like they'd kind of done that in the theater as well. It was still clear and crisp, but just seemed a little louder. Duo Transcend comes out and performs.
Okay.
Of course, we saw their intro package from when I think it's maybe their finale one where they talk about him meeting the doctor and getting his condition stopped. So they talked about that.
Right, he was going blind.
He was going
Right.
blind after this doctor saw him on AGT. Then he met with them and they were able to stop that progression. That was a pretty powerful performance. Watching them do their tricks, they did the trick where he drops her, grabs her by one leg upside down. They did that. It was all the same tricks that we'd seen on the show, but it was still, again, a different perspective seeing it in person. But it was the same routines that we'd seen on the show. Kristy, my favorite act of all time. I know you're a friend of the podcast, but my favorite act of all time, the clairvoyance made an appearance. I was so excited to see the clairvoyance. I did get to get a picture with them afterwards, so I was even more excited about that. Tommy wandered around the theater, and he stopped. He was asking people to take stuff out so that Amelie could guess what the item is, and he stopped about 4 rows in front of me. So he picked someone that was about 4 rows in front of me. I did get a video of it, and if you look closely in the video, you can actually see me on the screen where the camera's pointing up. You can see him in the background. It was really fun. So it was great watching Amelie and Tommy do their thing during the show. Lots and lots of fun. Deadly Games then comes out, and John Dorboss told us that Deadly Games, not Alfredo, won AGT Extreme.
Okay.
So she wasn't part of that act because it was him and his buddies doing motorcycle tricks
Right.
in AGT Extreme. So, and I couldn't really tell if it was her. I think it was the same. I think it's his wife that was doing the routine with her. I couldn't really tell though. But
Okay.
it was definitely Alfredo. And being far away, I was pretty far back, but I think watching it on TV gives it a little more impact than watching it on a stage. They seemed really small on the stage, with just the two of them throwing knives. Then Leah Kyle comes out,
Oh yeah.
the quick
I really
change
liked her.
artist. Yeah, she's
I have
really
to go.
good.
Sorry, guys. I'll have to listen
You have
to
to
the
go?
rest on the podcast.
Thank you for coming, Kristy. We'll have you on again, and we'll talk some more about this.
Yeah.
We really
Nice to meet
appreciate you
you,
coming.
Cody. And I'll
Same.
talk
Blessings
to you later.
to you, Kristy. Thank you so much for all your generosity to me, to my family, and for taking the time to be here tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye. So yeah, thank you, Kristy, for joining us. That was a lot of fun. Okay, so Leah Kyle comes out and of course does all her tricks.
Her quick change.
Her quick change again, same routine that we'd seen on the show. I think she even maybe performed for one of the same songs. Um, it was interesting watching it on the stage. I think I spent a lot of time watching it on the screens. Thing about the projections that they had for the cameras showing what was going on stage is it not only was on screens, but it kind of overflowed to the walls. Almost the whole wall on the sides became a screen. So it was even bigger than being on just normal
Sure.
screens. So it kind of got a little bit more perspective there. After Leah Kyle, another one of my favorite acts, the Silhouettes,
Oh,
came out and
fun.
performed. Yeah. There might have been a tear during this performance, Jay.
Oh,
So, I think it's been a while since we've seen the Silhouettes. It's been a few years. They're still as fabulous as they were when they were on. I think that the act they did may have been very similar. They did the Hope. They spelled out Hope. They spelled out
okay.
Silhouettes. Great performance. That is a spectacular performance to see in person, because they do use up the whole stage. The whole stage is behind a screen,
Yeah.
and they utilize all of that, and some of the things that they outline and some of the objects that they make with their bodies is incredible. I loved it. That was such an amazing performance to see the Silhouettes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then finally we had the magnificent, the amazing. I'm gonna now say, now that I've seen this person in person, I'm gonna say he is the GOAT. A lot of people say that what's his name, the magician that everyone loves. Yeah, they say he's the GOAT.
Hello?
No, not him. No, thankfully I was so excited that Dustin Tavella did not make a performance. I was so nervous that I was gonna have to watch Dustin Tavella.
Oh, Shin
in person.
Lim is who you're talking
Shin
about.
Lim. Yeah. So
Okay.
a lot of people say Shin Lim is the GOAT. No. After watching Cody Lee in person, he is the GOAT. He is the GOAT. Hands down. He sang 2 songs. A Song to You by Ray Charles
Okay.
and Lost Without You by Freya Writings.
Okay.
I think I've heard the song, but I don't recognize the artist. But when he comes out, his mom wasn't there. I'm not sure. There was another gentleman with him. I'm not sure if that was his dad or brother. I'm not sure if there's a relative. I think his name was Eric.
Okay.
But his mom was not there. But when he's already seated at the piano, the curtain rises, and he's giving hand motions
Uh-huh.
to the crowd to get everyone excited. And to get everyone going. He probably did that for like 30 seconds. I mean, even though people were like, "Okay, we want to hear you sing," he was still
Right.
doing it. It was so amazing to see him do it. And then there was a pause. There's a long pause, I guess, while he was kind of getting his thoughts together. And then he started playing. It was fantastic. It was marvelous. Again, there might have been another tear appear while he was singing. It was so incredible. His voice, I don't think watching it on TV gives it justice. The piano playing in that theater was incredible. It gives me chills today just still thinking about how he was singing and the way he sounded, and then the way he actually interacts with the crowd beforehand, afterwards. It's amazing. I
Yeah.
can't stop thinking
Yeah.
about it.
Well,
It's
I mean,
so good.
Cody is
Yeah.
he really is a special talent. He
Yes.
certainly has his limitations, right? When you're autistic, blind, when you've got the mountains that he has to climb, the hand that he's been dealt. But it's like a switch flips when he is sitting at that piano, and like the emotion that he's able to convey, the musicality of it all, it really is just something to behold. And
Yeah.
I'd imagine seeing it live is just that much more visceral.
Yeah, absolutely. So after he leaves the stage, and again, I think there were 2 standing ovations when he finished playing. He soaked it in. I think he stood up and kind of just stood there and thanked the crowd. He gave it like a small, not a long speech, but just a real quick speech. Thanking the crowd, kind of talking about some things real quick. That was real cool to see. Again, more standing ovations from the audience.
Did you get any heck yeahs?
We got some heck yeahs. Absolutely,
Heck
we got a
yeah.
heck yeah. We got a heck yeah. I mean, that's his thing. He can't come on stage without giving everyone a heck yeah. But he does seem like he is his own person. He knows what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very aware by the audience and the atmosphere, which is incredible. So after he disappears, John Dornbos comes back on stage and does some more tricks. And he asks someone early on in the performance, and I'm not going to go through the tricks because that's kind of what you do, and I didn't write all that down anyway. I was just trying to enjoy the tricks. But at the beginning of the show, he'd asked this lady to hold on to this taped up box. And said, hold on to that tightly. If you leave, you got to give it to someone else. And then so when at the end of the show, it all kind of comes back and he asks the lady for the box, and he incorporates it into another trick he's doing with 4 other people. John Dornbos being John Dornbos, one of my favorite magicians. So I was so excited to see him. If Preacher had been there, I think Preacher was the one of the hosts. If he had been there, it would have been great to see him. So I was really excited to see John Dornbos, and motivational speaker, talking about football, talking about magic, going into the crowd, interacting with people. Really, really, really incredible show. They play some more like quick AGT clips on the video screen over "This is the Greatest Show" from The Greatest Showman.
Of course.
So. Yeah. Commenter, if you're worried that they're losing the licensing to The Greatest Showman, they're not. They are actively using it. Once John Dornbos is done, he thanks everyone for coming.
Wait, was there something in the box?
Yeah, I didn't write all those details down, but yeah, it was, like someone's name and like, he did something with like 4 quarters. He did his state, his football state map.
Oh yeah,
trick that he did for I think it was either the semifinals or the finale, where you throw a ball and then then like 4 quarters appear that had the 4 states that they selected, and so
okay, all right,
yeah,
that's what was in the box.
Yeah, that's something like that.
Okay.
Light Balance comes back up and they come out, do a little dance on the stage. Then they actually go out into the audience and dance out in the audience. Is really cool. I think I may have not mentioned this earlier. When I think it was either when Light Balance or when Duo Transcend came out. When one of them came out, some like giant drums were like drummers came out into the audience and played some like giant bass drums out in the audience. So that got real immersive. Yeah, Light Balance came out, performed some more. The entire cast comes back out. Takes us about all that type of stuff. Great show. It's about an hour and a half. So if you're a fan of AGT, it can actually be so those that came in a half hour late missed a third of the show.
Yeah.
And then as you leave, the clairvoyants are out there, I think, selling some of their merch. You can get a couple pictures taken with them.
Yeah.
You get some pictures taken on the red carpet with the AGT wallpaper behind you. Yeah, if you're an AGT fan and you're in Vegas, the show could be a hit or miss depending on who's performing at that time. I think I got lucky that I got some really good performances. Leah Kyle, let's see who else. I think for the most part, I think I got a really good show.
Yes.
Light Balance, John Dornbos, Ava Swiss, Duo Transcend, the Clairvoyant. I mean, all of them. Leah Kyle was the only one that might have been a miss, but it's not that far off.
No, it's certainly like high on variety, right? You're not
high on variety. Yes.
Singer. You've got
yes. Yeah, and I think that's really good. And then they trade them in and out because I'll constantly see that Clairvoyants are like back in Austria or they're touring somewhere, so they're not always there. They rotate in the hosts, so you're not going to go to the show and more than once and get the same show twice. I think you're going to get a mixture of different things. You might get the same acts, a couple of the acts you might see more than once, but it's going to be a different mixture of acts, which I think is really good that AGT is doing that. And then they bring in someone that was on this season, so that's fresh in people's minds.
That's a fun surprise.
That was a real fun surprise to see Ava Swish show up. So you don't have to win the show to get, in the Vegas act. So, yeah, highly recommend. My only two things: one is it did seem really loud. They did seem to have the volume cranked a little bit.
Yeah.
And two, because we cover it and we've watched a lot of AGT, it did seem a little repetitive with watching the intro packages again, and then seeing a lot of the same, tricks and routines and stuff. But for those that are casual watchers, I think it's probably going to be perfect for them.
Yeah. No, that sounds like a really great show. Sounds like they know what they're doing as they're putting it together too.
They do seem like they know what they're doing. Yeah, I will agree with that. And they let you take video and photo as long as you don't use flash photography and you don't live stream. So.
Yeah. Well, I as far as the production quality at the show, there were times when it felt louder than I would have liked. When I go to a concert, like at the State Fair or anything, I pack my earplugs. I don't enjoy being accosted by loud noises. So I had my earplugs packed. Didn't need them for the Pasadena show.
Okay.
But the quality of the stage, right? Like we see it on our TV. Like it looks like it's a the LEDs is a pretty impressive display, but seeing it live, like it's so many LEDs. It's so big, and clear down to the top of the stage that she's on. The front of the stage in front of Kristy Sellars also is covered with those LED. Up to the judges table. So like the whole intricacy of the production, the technology that all goes into it is really quite impressive for the Pasadena show. Did the stage at the Vegas show light up at all, or was it just like the back like we saw?
Yeah, it was typically the back wall that they had going. Beforehand, they would have like just the AT kind of logo and star thing flowing for a lot of that. They show the funniest auditions. They'd run that periodically. But then if they had some projection or something, it was mainly just on the back. It was not on the stage itself.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And we can go back and look, but that might be new to this year or just in the last season or two. Like that seems like a pretty new thing, which is perfect for Kristy's performance, that immersive theater that she does. So.
Well, and we heard one of them actually broke one of the panels.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the other was it Max,
the dancer,
the Australian dancer? Yeah.
Yes.
He landed on it hard, landed on it weird, hit a weak spot, something. But they had to remove that panel and like the 8 panels around it to be able to replace that one. Kind of how it's built. But
so Jay, during a commercial break, what is going on during a commercial break? Like, are the judges interacting? What's happening?
There's a guy named Chuck. His job is to get the crowd riled up, right? Keep us focused. And Chuck tells the same jokes night after night, performance after performance.
Okay.
So a thing that I neglected to say or didn't quite fill out, when Kristy qualified for the finale, she then re-invited me and my dad to come back to Pasadena for the finale show. And it was like, I've already taken this time off work. I'm already, I've had the experience. I don't need to have it again. And I really shouldn't afford to have it again. I've already borrowed against, my time with my family to be there. a second week in a row just doesn't make sense. So, I said, thank you for the invitation, but I really cannot. And Kristy then, to my dad said, well, if you want to come back, like the tickets are here. So my mom and dad actually went back for the finale show, and they confirmed that Chuck doesn't just use the same jokes 2 nights in a row, but he'll use it, the next week. So it's 4 nights in a row, but he's using the same stuff. And he could do a little bit better job maybe of like in the last 10 or 15 seconds coming out of commercial break, getting everybody ramped up instead of for the last, 90 seconds, like, all right, here we go. Everybody, on your feet. It's like, well, really, like, just get us there for that last part of it.
Yeah.
Always having that being at the peak is pretty tough. But so he's kind of doing that and keeping us all motivated. He'll go around the audience and say, "Hey, where are you from? Hey, where are you from? Like tell us, whatever." Like, and there's people from all over the world. There really, really are, and that's cool to be in such a diverse audience that way. Mm-hmm. And he's going around, he's giving away tickets to the Vegas show. He's giving away t-shirts like the one that I have on.
Nice.
And I cheered my butt off and I was like, Chuck, this guy right here needs a t-shirt. Chuck, I need a shirt. Help me out. So he chatted with me a little bit, and I promised to wear my shirt to work the next time that I get called in to sub. So it was all good. So like that's kind of what happens during the commercial break is they keep us all motivated. They keep us all whatever. If there's hey, we handed out these light sticks to everybody. Get those out, or get those out at this point, whatever, like just some pretty generic, like, keep them hidden until then and then get them out, or, we're going to wave flags, whatever the prop is that they've handed out for us. So, some, but mostly just kind of keeping us engaged and having a fun time.
Did you also keep your little sign that, was it Mervant? Not Mervant. Who am I thinking of?
The what was it? Imagination or Imagine? Was that the?
Yes. Was it Shu Takata?
It was. I was up in the balcony that night. The balcony didn't get those.
Oh, okay.
But I will say, on our way out, they were collecting any props that they had given us. So they were
okay. Well, that's a shame. That's a good souvenir to keep.
It would have been. I got the shirt though, so I'm
there.
Happy.
You go. Okay. So anything else? Is there kind of anything else that from your experience that you think the listeners would want to know?
Just like some kind of generic how they run the show. Like the performance ends, they step to the front of the stage, and you see these big screens close behind them. And so you can't see what's going on behind those screens while the judges are giving their judges' comments, but you can see the stagehands, between the edge of the stage and that screen. They're bringing stuff on, they're moving stuff off, like they're preparing for the next act, like post haste. They're
yeah.
So those screens that close behind the act, like you're watching the stagehands, like. They're coming in with those screens so they can get their work done. So
yeah,
that's kind of fun to see. There's a little countdown timer on the front of the stage that's up there, so the judges can see how much time they have left to talk. And
Sophia knows how much time. No, Sophia knows how much time she has left to get an Instagram post out.
Yeah. That countdown timer is the countdown to commercial, right? Or for Terry to throw it to commercial, I guess, is probably the more likely countdown. But like there was one time Simon was talking, and it reaches 0, and he's still going, and then Terry's like, "Okay, we're going to commercial break. Bye." And like there was that one time, but mostly, you saw the judges kind of watching that clock, and like, okay, I've got 2 more judges after me, so I better keep my comments short, or whatever. But that clock there was kind of an interesting thing to see when you're in the live theater. Otherwise, Pasadena is beautiful. Like we were there for those days during the daytime. We had time. We explored, took an Uber to the Rose Bowl and kind of walked around the Rose Bowl a little bit. My dad loves to eat ice cream when he's on vacation, so
Nice.
I have no problem with that. We hit a few different ice cream shops. That was kind of fun. There's a restaurant called the Yard House, which is just a block away from the Pasadena Civic Center. They've got, they said over 200 beers on tap. They did not give me a specific number, but I
Need to call Bandalone and see if they can meet you there.
Would have loved to. But I mean, the live show, there's so many like little specific things that when I'm asked about it, I'll be able to talk about. But it's just this detail, that detail. It's hard to even bring it up.
Yeah. Well, real quick, just talk about like the Celia Munoz thing. How did it play out?
Well, going into the night, I had 0 acts in the finale. Then the Mayas are announced into the finale, and then Kristy's finally announced into the finale. So I got 1 act in, and then we get our 2nd act in, and it was so like I went from 0 acts in the finale to 2 acts in the finale in pretty short order. Finally, the last 2 in.
So did they show, was that, I mean, did they do that live there, or was that already, how was that?
Yeah, they did that live there. Okay. So, when Terry said we're going to, we're going to the judges, it felt to me like this was the judges like actually making that decision at that moment, right?
Okay.
And I do believe that if it had been an act from this 5th qualifier that they wanted to have a chance in the finale, they could have picked one from this 5th qualifier. This was not a pre-recorded thing or anything. And so they all made their choices. I felt like Celia was a pretty good choice, but man, I don't even remember who the other 3 were.
I've got my notes here. Give me just a second. It was Players Choir, Celia Munoz, Lily Miola, and Don McMillan.
Yeah, so Don, he's a fan favorite. Lily's a stinking golden buzzer, and like she was the legitimate first choice, of all the qualifier acts by commenter. Like, she's good. Celia, I feel like has that. I don't know. I go for the variety.
Yeah.
And like she's more memorable maybe than some of the other acts. I felt like Players Choir was kind of a swing and a miss as a potential finalist. But yeah, like they say them. We go to commercial break. We get the and Juliet like pre-recorded part. And then we come back and we get results. So I was able to, pull my phone out of my pocket and vote for Celia.
Good.
During that time.
That was going to be my next question: is were you able to vote?
Yep, I was. I did it just like the rest of America during that 5-10 minute time there.
Okay.
And then Terry announced on stage, and they projected her picture up there, and she seemed genuinely shocked and pleased to be in the finale.
Nice. Okay, good. Anything else? I mean, well, as we move into season, maybe, we're going to start getting back into season 4, but as we get into like season 18, then, you'll have a new perspective on how to view the show, and you'll be able to talk about, as we're talking about that season, you'll be able to talk about, well, now this may be happening, or you might see this or that type of thing. So, it's great that we now have that experience and that perspective of it to shed some light. Not shed some light, to just talk about what we're going to,
a different perspective.
Yeah. So let's just kind of quickly talk about what's gonna be coming up. Next week we are not gonna have a pod. We're gonna take the week off. I found out today that I am going to see Chapel Hart.
Hey.
Yeah, I saw an article today. One of our local news outlets posted that Chapel Hart was coming to my area. I immediately went out and looked at tickets. There was about 14 seats available.
Oh, wow.
So apparently others knew about this before I did. So I ordered my ticket, and I will be going to see Chapel Hart
Fun.
on the 29th. So no pod. You get a night off, Jay.
All right, I'll take it.
Yeah. I then will be back, and we will get right back into season 4.
We'll do season 4. Cody, were you aware that there was other Got Talent news this week? A mention from Simon Cowell that there will be an America's Got Talent All-Stars at some point here?
Did not. I must have missed that.
Yes, there will be a Got Talent All-Stars. I think I heard Kristy say that there was ask if she was interested, and I didn't have a chance to ask her more to to talk about that. But
so is this just a rebranding of Champions?
I think so.
Okay.
Or call it something else. But
okay,
and it might even be not America's Got. It might be like less of a competition and more of a just a show, a variety show. Yeah. I don't know.
Okay. Could it be like the holiday special that we did that I have now recapped twice?
It might be like the holiday show that you've recapped twice. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting news. So as we find out more about that, we'll talk about it in weeks to come, maybe.
In weeks to come. Cody, I just want to say, one last thing. Like as people have asked me, like, hey, how was your trip? Tell me about it. It's like my biggest takeaway is not going to be anything from the actual theater, from the actual show. Being part of Kristy's friends and family,
yes.
Hanging out with them, spending time with them, being just embraced by them as Kristy Sellars fans, I guess.
Yeah.
But their openness and generosity with us, that's going to be the thing that I take away. And
that's great.
I only hope that someday I can repay her the kindness that she's extended to me and to my family. So
just take her to the Iowa State Fair one time.
Well, if she is in Iowa, she's got a friend here. I'll take good care of her.
You, Kristy, and Bandoloni can go hang out together.
Absolutely. I would love nothing more.
Okay,
right.
So that's going to kind of put a bow on our recap. Again, Kristy, if you're listening to this again, thank you for coming on. We'd love to have you on again. I know there's a lot more that we can talk about. You're rushed in that, and we had some other things. And Kristy, if you got any questions for me about my trip to Vegas Live, I'll be happy to answer those. But that's going to kind of put a wrap on season 17, Jay. We'll be back in 2 weeks to start season 4. So if you all have any questions or anything about season 4, we may do like a slight recap because it's been a minute since we started it. So we may just slightly recap what we did back in the spring. And then, of course, Commenter and I will be back for some AGT rewatchables. We've got guests lined up.
Already lined up. Fantastic.
We've got guests already lined up. Yes. We're working on a schedule for the rewatchables. So watch our Twitter feed for all that. And you can catch us. We didn't do this at the beginning, but you can catch us on our social medias at AGT Time Pod. You can email us agttimepod@gmail.com. I believe Kristy's on Twitter and Instagram at Kristy Sellars. Is that right?
There's a number on there or something. I don't remember what it is.
Bear with just a moment. We'll verify that.
Well, maybe it's just at Kristy Sellars.
Kristy Sellars 0 on Twitter.
Okay.
So on Twitter, Kristy Sellars 0, and Instagram, I think it's just Kristy Sellars. So if you haven't, go give her a follow. She's got some good content out there that she posts.
Yeah.
So, yep. So Jay, thank you. Season 17 in the books.
Yes, thank you, Cody. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, everybody who is part of this journey with us. Rate, review, subscribe is what we always ask. But if you're enjoying this content, please do let us know. That really helps us out.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone, have a great night.
Stay safe.